The,
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful tasting of the Virtual Tasting Society. I am Vadim Perlovsky, and today I'm excited to welcome Chris Uhde. Right? I said that right?
yeah,
I know
yeah,
I
you
spelled
said
it
it
wrong.
right.
I've
No,
heard it a
you're
million times
good.
and I spelled it wrong every time. So, welcome, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us today. Chris is the head blender and cask picker for Fukano Whiskey. He is the man in the US that knows the most about Fukano whiskey, and we're excited to learn from you. Uh, Fukano is kind of a unique product, and I'm not going to step on your toes. I'm going to let you talk all about it. But Chris is here, and Sam Filmus is here as well. The two gentlemen running ImpEx Beverages. Thank you so much for being here for all your support on all of our tastings. We're excited to feature another wonderful of your brands. So please tell for those of us who are here for the first time or anyone watching this on YouTube that don't know who you are yet, introduce yourselves, tell us about ImpEx, and then go on and tell us about Fukano.
Should I talk? So, ImpEx Beverages was founded in 2008 by Sam, and it is we are a company that just, to put it simply, we have fun and we import very, very good spirits. It's a smaller book. It's a severely curated book. Like it's not one that we take lightly. We don't do white wine by the glass. It's always just really, really good spirits. And it's, I mean, what is it, 26 years, or not 26, but 18 years. And we started out with one brand, a blended whiskey. And then from there we went into single cask whiskeys and single malt scotches, and then expanded to import stuff from India. If you're looking for like one of your guys mentioned, they liked older Irish whiskey. Older Irish whiskey has a nice fruit pop on the back end. If you get a bottle of Indri, you'll notice it has kind of that same thing. We import from New Zealand, from Israel, from Japan, and from Mexico. And then I feel like I'm forgetting something because I always forget. And then England and Scotland, of course. I guess you got to separate them out, right? But Fukano Whiskey is a unique project that was started back in 2014. Um, we had a different company back then called GRC, Georgian Royal Collection, which is now fully merged into ImpEx. And it started with a single cast sample over dinner. A friend came to visit and brought us like just a mini of this brown liquid, and it was fantastic. And I asked him what he was going to be doing with it, and he said he had just taken a job at Japanese Food Corporation and was going to become a salaryman. So he was getting out of the booze game, and we asked if we could have permission to take it over since he didn't see anything to do with it, and he said yes. Made an introduction, and we went over there and we tasted a few other casks, realized how powerful it could be, and then signed them, the Fukano family and the Oishi family. The Fukano family, yeah, first, anyone who's got whiskey, pour the first whiskey. It's the Fukano Blonde, and knows it and tastes it. In tonight's journey, we're gonna explore all aspects of what whiskey can be. We're gonna push the boundaries of the flavor profile of whiskey because if since Sam is very patient with me, and since he allows me to kind of guide this project, and I have a little bit of a punk rock streak in me. I like to have fun with it, and the blonde is designed to showcase the distillate, and it's designed to showcase that distillation practice that kind of dates back to 1823. So it's made from 100% locally grown rice. It is a combination of two barrels. It's the reason why it's a combination of two barrels is there were these two cool refill casks that were being very stubborn when I was putting a blend together. They tasted perfectly fine on their own, but they weren't great. Um, and I had to admit that they weren't great. So I was trying to blend them into larger vattings, and everything I was blending them into was bringing the quality of the vatting down, and that's unacceptable in the world of Impex. So it was a little bit of a frustrating moment. This was about 2 days of my time in the evenings after work, mind you, that I'm sitting here trying different vattings of it, and I'm getting pretty irritated. And then I put them together and they were perfect. They didn't want to play well with anybody else, and they didn't want to play well by themselves. But when the two of them went together, it did well. And what was really great about it is that it carries almost a sake-esque flavor. You can feel the umami of the koji that's used to make the whiskey. You get the soft creaminess of the distillate. You don't have too much oak influence. And we were lucky in that some judges agreed with us and gave it 98 points double gold medal. So it worked out. But the Fukano Blonde, you can kind of smell it. It's almost floral, right? You get notes of honeysuckle, but not like honeysuckle from a sweetness, just very soft and flowery, and it's almost sake-esque. And that's one end of where you can push whiskey to be, right? Almost in like a Burgundy wine style. And then we're going to go to the exact opposite end and almost have like a port wine style where it's just over the top and thick and bruised and beefy. But that's the first one. Vadim, I have to admit, you kind of have me on my toes and very nervous because you're talking about YouTube and whatnot. And I was under the impression that it was this club and everyone that I can see their wonderful faces, and we were going to kind of have a back and forth and be part of a group. Now I feel like I'm lecturing or talking at people, which is
No,
a little
absolutely
bit of a,
not. We're
all
happy
right,
to have
cool.
you, and people will share their tasting notes. We're just actively listening. We don't want to. We
Well,
don't
remember,
want
YouTube's watching, so just say everything tastes delicious. And I got 25 cents coming at you in the mail. That's less than a stamp. Maybe I'll just send you a stamp in the mail because that probably cost me less than
There's no
25
more than
cents.
4 people who watch the YouTube videos, so you are good.
to. Wow,
Ah,
The
overconfidence
nose
right there.
the
right to the
nose
jugular.
on the nose on this thing is really impressive. I picked it up and I put it to my nose like, whoa, too close, you know? Um, it's actually got a pretty big nose. So I wonder if
Yes.
anybody else feels that way.
Does anyone else feel that way? Let's open it up, man. This is a dialogue, not a thing. But yeah, the idea is so when they were separated out, right? One was a little bit too club-footed, and one was a little bit too, to be honest, it was a little bit too sour. But when you put them together, you got the nice aromatics in the nose, and then it kind of came around, and you get that little bit of marshmallow note. So it's subtly big, if that makes sense, right? You would think it's like a light whiskey, but it's not a light whiskey. It's just a very elegant whiskey. And don't drink it fast. Like, spend your time with it. I'll tell you a little bit about Fukano Distillery, and then we can drink the other ones pretty quickly. This is one, or if you have a second glass, just leave this off to the side because this is one that kind of develops. It's like a shocker one. You guys ever have a whiskey where you kind of take a sip of it and then you come back to it and you take another sip and then you kind of come back to it and you take another sip and you just kind of slow roll into what the whiskey is? There's some whiskeys where you have a sip and out of the gate you're like, oh, I know, that's exactly it. Other whiskeys you kind of slow roll into them and they get under your skin. This is more like that heroin style whiskey where you're not you think you're over it, but you just keep kind of sneaking back to it. It's one of those where they have to call and send you to rehab, and then you have to go on methadone, which is, I guess, some other whiskey that's not Fukano, and then you come back to it once you got more money. Who knows? Anyways, the distillery was founded in 1823. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations in. The ninth generation is born and just a little itty bitty baby. It's they started because a guy was working for the government and was going down to Hitayoshi, Japan to buy rice and got down there and realized, he almost pulled a Green Acres. He's like, screw the city life. I want to live in the countryside, and built the distillery. And the distillery's been there so long that the road is actually on the other side of the distillery now. So when the distillery was originally built, the road went by the chimney side, and then they rebuilt the road and they cut his land apart and ran from in between where some of the fields were to where the distillery was, and actually moved the road to the other side of the building. So it's kind of a testament to the longevity of the distillery. They only use grains grown in Kumamoto for this project. They have another project, but it's still all locally grown in Kyushu. But for this is all grown in Kumamoto, and everything starts out as a shochu, and it can go one of two ways, right? If you're going to make a shochu, you can just bottle it as a shochu, but you can't go darker than a certain color. Like even this bottle is too dark to be bottled as a shochu. Um, or you can, let it pick up the color from the oak. There's no coloring added. You can let it pick up the color from the oak, and then you can bottle it as whiskey in the export market. And it's been a little bit of a sensitive point in Japan because when this project first started, it was kind of new ground. A lot of people don't realize that, you know, vocabulary is what vocabulary is like things are categorized by the words that you know, if that makes sense. And the reason why we refer to bourbon as whiskey and to rye as whiskey is because when the immigrants came over to distill those ingredients, they brought the word whiskey with them, right? It dates back to first written record is 1494. And then that word kind of came with them through it. But in Japan, Japan was a closed society, so the word never made it over there. So they had their own proprietary distillate that you know that they would call oraka, and where's Okada oraka? It's like 500 years ago that started. But then it moved into the word of shochu, and it's not until 1823 when the word whiskey was introduced to the country of Japan, when Commodore Perry brought some American shochu, if you would, or American whiskey, and traded it into Japan. And so the distillate kind of predates the word, if that makes sense, which is why the word didn't carry over. And so it was isolated to a tax law. And so there's been some confusion because people are saying, well, they don't make whiskey because they don't call it whiskey in Japan. Well, the truth is whiskey as we know it is just a distilled spirit made from grain and aged in used oak barrels. And that's exactly what this was. And to even prove it to a further degree, shochu, the Japanese term for it, used to be legal to bottle it at a dark color. But in 1989, there was a $6 billion trade deficit between the United Kingdom and Japan, and Margaret Thatcher formed a coalition to go over there to renegotiate several things, including Scotch whiskey import taxes. And she was successful in that. But one of the um, casualties of that was that they then prohibited shochu from being bottled at a dark color because she saw it and realized that that was a legitimate threat to whiskey on a global level. Because if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, and if it's delicious, well, people are going to have duck, right? It's just kind of one of the things, it's kind of the way it goes. So in 89, they outlawed it. And that's why this distillate that you guys are trying today wasn't even around for 30 plus years until Sam and I brought it back after that long hiatus by being able to bottle as whiskey for the export market. Now, the confusion gets further because then there was another coalition formed. People like to make coalitions when they feel threatened. And they formed another coalition of a group of distillers in Japan to try to determine what they wanted to call whiskey. And they came up with a solution that they put some marketing dollars in that you guys have probably heard about, called the Japanese Distilled Spirits Liquor Association, which is a private entity, not actually affiliated with the government. And they came out with what their laws were. But even in their laws, it was kind of a cagey thing because they say that you need to use malted barley, but they didn't specify how much. So that gave them the loophole of using 90% this and 10% that. And then they could call it whiskey and they were going to be satisfied for it. But they didn't like this because this is 100% locally grown grains, no malted barley in it. As a matter of fact, maybe there is now, but when this first started, I don't even think there was a malting facility on the island of Kyushu that could even malt barley. Everything was done with koji. It's just the way it goes. Even the whiskeys that we do that are barley, they're locally grown barley, and there's no way for them to be malted because they can't get malted barley. Anyway, so it goes through a tax law, and everyone thinks, okay, well that's going to be it. But Fukano and Oisan are pretty savvy, and then the money raised from this project, because it's in the tax license, it's not actually in the distillation practice, help them to buy another license, which then qualifies under that tax license. And so Fukano-san for the last 2 years now has been making a combination koji and malted barley whiskey that will come of age at the end of 2026, provided it's ready to drink. It tastes pretty good now, but it does like this. So we'll have to see where it is. So at that point in time, it's going to be fun because you already do have it in Japan. There's one called uh, there's one called oh man, Okinawa Blue is koji and malts, but it's completely legal. The only difference is that in Japan, to call it whiskey, you got to add a 10% malted grain juice into it. So if you were to take these and add 10% Scotch whiskey, all of a sudden you'd have Japanese whiskey. It's the strangest thing. But if you have 100% Japanese distillate, it doesn't quite have the tag yet until the end of 2026 when their license has been in effect long enough for the tax agency to recognize that what they've been making for almost 200 years qualifies as whiskey. Does that make sense? So there's a long politics. But now try the Fukano Blonde again and watch how it's changed. And then grab the 2223. Any questions or comments at this point?
It's so interesting that if it was in any other country that like a country that doesn't make single malt or isn't famous for single malt, well, nobody would bat an eye, right? If you pick a European country where they are known for a specific grain and say they distill that grain, age it in wood, we'd be like, yeah, whiskey, we're great. But because Japan already has a history of soju and they've built their name on the big brands and making malt or selling malt whiskey, it becomes a political discussion. Whereas like somewhere else,
Yeah, at the end of the day, here are the truths. Nika has bought two different shochu distilleries in Kagoshima, and they're making grain whiskey out of it. And that's what's going into the Nika products now. So they're using the same stills that we use. There's a multitude of distilleries that are doing the same thing. It's just kind of like it's the natural evolution of it, right? It's just a vocabulary and it's the culture starting to figure out how they're going to marry together and start to homogenize a little bit because it just quite hasn't it just didn't happen before now. Um, I mean, in America, we had kind of the same history, right? Like now we talk about straight bourbon and bourbon, but a lot of people forget that there was a light whiskey in the 1970s where they were just taking bourbon and adding as much like neutral grain spirit as they could to it to try to make it not taste like whiskey because vodka was coming on. But they still called it whiskey, even though it'd be like 5% bourbon and the rest would be vodka. And one could maybe argue that that's a whiskey flavored vodka and not necessarily a whiskey, but it's just it is what it is. Let's just focus on the juice. And the juice of the next one is the Fukano 2223 edition. Now, I'm sorry, this one did not get 98 points. It only got 93 points, but it's still pretty good. And it's a combination of Bordeaux red wine, Manzanilla sherry, new and used oak. The Bordeaux red wine, there were some Cologne Segura casks in it, if you guys care about that. And the way that they came about were Fukano-san's friend bought some wine and they shipped him the barrels with the wine. And he's like, I don't need these barrels. So he called Fukano-san. Fukano-san's like, yeah, man, I'll totally take them. And so we filled them up. And then 8 years later, there you go. How do we find the second one versus the first one? I'm getting
yeah. So by the way,
I
I went through. I started nosing the rest of them, and I realized the big nose that I had thought the blonde had, really it belongs to all of these. So it's more just I'm surprised. I don't think the nose is as big as I'm saying it is. I think it's just that in my head it would be a gentler nose, and yet it's bigger than I expected.
So what you might be picking up on then is the actual rice itself and the koji.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. But this one, wow. I mean, it was such a different flavor profile from the first one altogether with all these different influences. I guess you've got, what did you say that you had?
Manzanilla sherry,
Yeah.
new Manzanilla sherry, Bordeaux red wine, new and used oak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Wow.
you just get you get what you get with any oak, right? You get more butter, especially with low ABV distillate. So this stuff goes in at 44.5%. And so it's going to bring out less of the bitter tannins, more of the sugars. And it takes it takes about 4 years for it to come around from being a more bitter note into the like sweeter, buttery style, creamy style. but then you get a little bit of savoriness from the manzanilla, and then you get some acidity from the Bordeaux red wine, and then that coconut butter from the new and used oak. And you'll see more of the coconut come in on the Fukano Select because it has a higher percentage of new oak to it. Let's see what we have in the comments here. A mulberry, man. We had a mulberry tree by my old apartment that was just never give you everything but. Anyway, and these whiskeys are good with drops of water and ice as well. So typically, if you guys want to know how I drink it, is a few degrees cooler than the room with just a touch of water in it.
I've noticed that these are naturally lower ABV than most products.
That's just because it comes off the still. So that's again, it's an old law, right? I've spoken to 2 different governmental agencies in Japan to ask them why this law is in existence. They don't know. It's just been around for hundreds of years. So both the Fukano family is not allowed to distill above 45. They have 2 licenses now. One license they can do it. The other license they cannot. One license they're not allowed to distill above 45%. And nobody knows why. The consensus is that maybe because everything, when they first started distilling, it was a wood still. Actually, they had an iron still. Oyson had a wood still. Because when they first started distilling, it was a wood still. And because everything was made out of wood, that maybe it was a fire code thing. That they didn't want to go above 45% to prevent like a mass explosion of stuff. Because if you did have it at above proof and you had a bunch of stuff in ceramic jars, those jars are easy to break, right? Because casks weren't necessarily a thing at that time. For them, they had pottery, so you could have a proper fire hazard on your hands. But again, I spoke two different states, like think California and Nevada. I've spoken with the liquor commissions in both of those states, and neither one have been able to give me a solid reason as to why that is. They just go, it just is. And they don't even know when the law was enacted. It's just an old law. It's hundreds of years old. So in the wintertime, the ABV goes up, and the summertime it goes down, but you're able to get kind of like hovers in the same area. So you can go, I think at Oishi Distillery, there's casks up to 30 years old that are still above 40%. At Fukano Distillery, the cask manifest was a lot smaller. You're going to actually have one of the oldest ones ever bottled tonight. They all got pilfered because when we were first releasing it, I'll be honest, we didn't realize we were kind of like, yeah, we have plenty of casks. And then we got into it, we're like, you do not have plenty of casks. And so there's a little bit of a waltz on that front. That's why it's always small production, because you want to make sure the casks are ready. You don't want to bottle them too early. You can't rush it, right?
Yeah.
I'm seeing some good notes come in.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you covered this. It's a Koji whiskey, which I Googled because I had no idea what that meant, which sounds like an interesting thing. And the reason I did was because I was wondering, is everything made with only rice?
Yes. All locally grown.
And you might say what this Koji thing is with the mold. That sounds interesting.
Sure, I can show you guys. Let me close out some. Let me do this, and I can show you guys what it looks like.
And if you have pictures of the stills, I'm curious to learn about their stills as well.
Yeah, give me screen sharing ability, and I'll show you.
You have it.
Oh, do I?
Of course.
Right, hold on one second. So real quick, I'm going to show you on Oyson's website because it's easier. Let's see if I can find it.
John over here doing research behind the scenes. Love it.
As I'm reading it, I'm like, I don't think this group, and you know better than I do, Vadim, has talked about a process where mold helps with the whiskey, kind of like this looks like. That's all. Just look.
Well, so it's not as foreign as you might think it is, right? Because you have in like really what you need is amylase for healthy fermentation. So everyone knows yeast as a fermentation, but yeast needs to be stable. And my understanding is that amylase helps with that. And so in malted barley, when you're malting barley, that's literally what you're getting is is the amylase of the cellular structure change of the barley. And just koji is just doing the exact same thing. And if you want to know what it looks like this here. Let's see if it, can you see it?
Yep.
All right, so this is fun. If you know anything about whiskey, it's gonna take you on a pretty cool roller coaster. So this kanji means rice. So you have rice, then you steam the rice, then you add the koji mold to it, the spores, and you let it sit for 2 days at a constant temperature of about 80 degrees, and then you move it over into your moromi, and you add yeast and water, and you let that sit for 7 days. And so this is giving you the amylase needed, and it's also giving you the sugars of the rice. And then the yeast is feeding off of that and producing your what's called your primary moromi, your first moromi. And then you move that down. What you do is you divide this into three. And you would, so imagine there's three of these here. So you go 1, 2, 3, and then 2x of what's in here on top of it of more steamed rice and water. So it acts as a starter. So it'd be 1/3 of the koji rice, 2/3 of the steam rice, and then you let that continue to ferment for another 14 days. So it's a 21-day fermentation process all in, almost an entire month. Then you run it through your still, and the stills can be, you know what, I'm going to let me unshare, and then let me pull up the correct looking stills for you. Here we go. Here's what the original stills looked like. If you're into mezcal, this is going to be cool. This is the model of the still from 1823. So you just have a little cooling pot on top with a nipple, and then it would go up and condense and then be put back down. This is what the stills look like now. That's my wife for scale. I didn't have a banana handy. But this still is unique. You'll notice it's not copper, and it can also be run at atmospheric pressure and reduced pressure. And if you run it at reduced pressure, then the distillate, like the distillate the ethanol will vaporize at a lower temperature. And so you don't have to cook it so hard. So you get this very aromatic style distillate, which is what you can kind of see in the Fukano Blonde, right? So then it goes over for a single pass through the cooling tank and down into where it's collected. Now, the other unique thing about this is they don't have to. Here's some in-ground fermentation pots, if you're curious. This is fun. They do their whiskey this way as well. You don't have to make, yeah, these pots are 120 years old.
They're made out of like local clay.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's local clay. I guess I should ask them that when I see them next month. But I'm pretty sure they're all manufactured locally on Kyushu because, 100 years ago, that would have been very different. 100 years ago, you couldn't get to these villages, right? Like to get to the village now, you got to drive through, I think it's 26 tunnels over 40 minutes from the closest train station. There's no train that goes to the village. So before those tunnels were all there, the only way to go would be to go around all those mountains or to go via the river. And to go, the river was long, so I'm sure it was all locally done.
And how big is each one of those tanks?
500 liters, 480 liters, 480 liters, they say on them.
Okay.
But in the ground, it helps to keep the temperature, the consistency that they want it. Anyway, so then it goes through, and then it goes into the cask, and they just sit there, and it's pretty easy. I think this kind of shows this is a good picture to show the fermentation process, right? Like here's post fermentation, and then they go into distillation. Here's where they do the koji. So the koji is like you have to take off your shoes before you go in here. You cover yourself completely, put on a mask because you don't want this to contaminate. This is a very controlled environment to make sure that they get exactly what they want. And with koji, you've got three types. You have black, yellow, and white. And koji is used in a lot of things. You can use it to dry age steaks. You can use it to tenderize pork chops. It's used in soy sauce. It's used in sake. It's used in miso. If you've ever been to a sushi restaurant, you've had koji. recently in the last 4 years, if you've been to a Michelin star restaurant, you probably had koji. They all have a koji dish now. It's just one of those things. It's the thing that brings umami into a dish. It's like elevated. It's not part of our Western diet as much as it probably should be, but it's starting to really come into fashion. And an even more fun piece of information is those of you guys that like bourbon, it was this close to all bourbon being made from koji. Back in 1894, I think, the 1892, 1894, there's a Japanese immigrant named Takamine-san who patented the use of koji to malt grains in the United States. And the largest whiskey company at the time was the Whiskey Trust. And he signed a deal with them at the time, not in today's money, but back then was $10 million. So you can imagine how significant the deal was. If it was back when you could buy a house out of a Sears catalog for $150, right? And his stock shares were estimated at a $10 million valuation. Because all he said was, I have the patent. You can use it. You have to pay me 20% of the extra yield that you get from your grain by using it. And they said, okay. Now, what he didn't know is that the guys that were running the Whiskey Trust, they had no reserves and they were kind of bleeding it out. And it went into receiverships, and the people that got it out of receivership were like, we're not going to pay you. So he put a cease and desist on them being able to use the process to make bourbon. And that's why bourbon's made the way it is now, as opposed to using koji. Like, that kind of killed it, because from a patent standpoint, they weren't allowed to do it. And so they went back to the old way of doing it. But had they been able to do it, there's a pretty good argument to be made that because it was more efficient, because it made really good liquid, that could have changed the face of American whiskey as we know it. But you don't need to worry about Takamine-san. He did fine. He went to New York, started up a lab, isolated the adrenal gland in horses, which was used as the first anesthetic in surgeries, and made tens of millions of dollars that way. And he's got 2 statues in the United States, I think. So he did fine. But that process that basically was a household process in Japan was a completely novel idea in Western culture, so much so that he got a patent on it. He called it his diastasis process. But that's how these whiskeys are made. And now you have different distillers across the globe that are experimenting with koji where they're allowed to, and it's fun times. But it does give like that creaminess, that umami. It has a different flavor to it. It hits a little bit different, and it's designed to be that way, right? Because you're not going to out Scotch. Like ImpEx knows Scotch. Our single malts are fantastic. What's the point of cloning another one? The catalog's perfect where it is. You're not going to out bourbon. Bourbon knows what it's doing. It's really nice. So expand the pie of where the flavor can go, and that's where your joy is going to be.
I think
and
that's
then
one
I'll
of the
take this
reasons.
moment to just say how disappointed I am that Golan hasn't unmuted once to say hello. Thinks I can't see him. I see you. I'm seeing you the whole time.
I appreciate you having rice whiskey for Passover.
There you go. With Passover, does it work? Because I guess it does.
Ashkenazi not supposed to. Some Ashkenazi don't take rice, but I'll be sporadic for the cause. I'm not too much.
Are we ready for the next whiskey?
I think so.
I haven't. So the line arm isn't wide. It's insulated. It's got a jacket around it. So it's a standard one, but it's got a jacket around it.
And you're saying it's stainless steel is what it's made out of?
Yeah, they don't need any copper, and they don't need to make cuts. The first drop that come off the stills are consumable. There's no methanol. They call it hanatare. And the hanatare is actually, if you go to Oishi Distillery and you have to pay extra for hanatare. It comes in a smaller bottle and it's like 4 times the price because it's like super fruity. It's you get like all the rich fruit notes, and it's super rich and big and flavorful. But there's no bad stuff. Like, you don't need the copper to pull out the bad stuff. It's just very, very clean distillate, which some people like and some people don't, but it just is what it is.
And you said 2 distillations?
Single distillation. The Fukano, so Oi-san does a single distillation for his, and then for and then he makes single malt whiskey as well, which is a two distillation process in a different still. Fukano-san does a single distillation for what we're having here. And then there is a two distillation version that is going to, a little bit's going to go into a release that's coming out later this year. We can talk about it then. And then he does another two distillation version for the malted barley / koji rice whiskey that he's making with the other license. Again, it's a license thing, but yeah.
How's he getting such a high ABV? Because I thought the first run of a distillation run gives you low wines at like 20%. So how's he pulling out over 40?
The fermentation itself is about 16 to 18%, and then
okay.
they start, and because they don't have to make that cut, right? They can take from 80 all the way down to like the teens, and the average of that comes out to be 44.9 or 44.8 or right around in there.
Gotcha.
And that's the way it works. And that's the other crazy part too, is that like think about how long of a cut that is. You hear Scotch whiskies producers saying we can only take the first part of the cut because if you get into the faints, it gets to be very vegetal, right? You guys don't taste vegetables in this. There's none of that like off conager, like propanol 1, propanol 2, like weird notes that you would get with those other types of grain. The fermentation is very clean. The distillation is slow and very clean. It's just a different practice.
So if we were to drink too much, which of course none of us should do, and we know that we're very responsible drinkers, but if we were to imbibe a little too much on this distillate, we probably wouldn't have the same kind of a hangover we might have if we were drinking bourbon.
So that's obviously that's individual to the person. What you would I can tell you that, I can't speak for everyone, but I can definitely tell you that I feel better the next day after drinking a bunch of this. Um, it just it's a kind of a happy buzz too. So you get a little bit joyful. You don't feel so bad the next day for sure. Now, if I would maybe say the sherry cask coming up because it's such a rich sherry cask, that might get you because there's, obviously the sweetness of the sherry definitely influences the whiskey and that's going to add to it.
Yeah.
Or if you had a really, really heavily oaked version, that might get to you as well, the lignans in the oak. But the distillate itself is, like when I'm in Japan, I drink it, the new make, and in copious amounts with a lot of food and a lot of very poor Japanese, and it's a great time. It's just nice. Like I don't know how else to explain it. It's just a nice even keel way to experience an evening. So it's fun.
Yeah,
Does everyone
I just think that's amazing. And yeah, so I'm drinking the Select right now, and it's wow.
So the Select's got a higher percentage of new oak in it, and and it's so there you might get a little bit of coconut notes, you might get a little bit of raisin notes. That one's kind of like the sleeper. It's the one that I find myself pouring more often than the others. I don't know why. It's just kind of one of those where it's easy to enjoy. Yeah. How's everyone else doing? You guys are kind of quiet. You're making me nervous. It's like there's no Dodgers game tonight. That can't be it. What is it?
And the Lakers down by 31 and a half, so that's not it.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
It's all good. I'm drinking the Select also, and yeah, I think it's that coconut note. I'm a bourbon guy, and it's giving me like a really nice, well-aged bourbon feel with that. So it's familiar, but it's different enough because this is sherry finish as well, right?
There's a little bit of sherry. It's mostly new and used oak in this batting.
Yeah, right in the middle of the palate, I get a little bit of that raisin, but but it like just like sort of wisps away. But it's I don't know, really, it's interesting because were this a bourbon, I would expect all the baking notes at the end, and I'm not getting that, so it's kind of a different sort of buttery feel at the end, and so it's familiar yet different, and I'm kind of really enjoying that on my palate tonight.
Again, so you nailed it, right? You're knocking out bourbon. So if you're knocking out bourbon, just find that expansion of the pie, right? So many people are trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to make a very soft tank. Benno, you had a question. What type of oak? It's a 440-liter American oak cask. We don't think it's French oak. It comes from Ariake Sangyo in Miyazaki Prefecture. Filipino style distillation. Yeah, that's right. That's what they got in Mexico. That's what we got in Japan. Because it came through the Portuguese, right? They came up through the southeastern part of Asia. They went to Philippines. They went into China. They went to the Ryukyu Kingdom, which is now Okinawa, and then they went up into Kumamoto. 1546 is the first written record of distillation on a wooden plank in Japan. Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, I just see I have a lot of family who doesn't like whiskey. It's just too harsh for them, and everything. I could imagine they could get introduced to whiskey through this because this is softer. I find it more approachable for the reasons that they don't like whiskey, right? Because it's a softer thing. And anyway, I'm just curious if anybody else thinks that because I feel like when the family comes, I would love to pour them one of these and see how they react, as opposed to that face they make. It's whiskey.
Maybe it's ABV. Ask them what they normally drink. When I teach classes about single malt, it's always starts with, if you're used to drinking wine or beer, you're used to an alcoholic beverage that is anywhere from 4.5 to 15% alcohol by volume max, right? And 15% wines are big, big wines. So if you're used to drinking those type of things, then whiskey's going to kind of surprise you because it starts at 40 and goes up from there. Most of the whiskeys that Americans like to drink are 50 and up, right? Unchill filtered at 46 is kind of the baseline. If anything, these products are an anomaly within our portfolio because they're beneath that typical 46% cutoff that we have at ImpEx. But because there's no water added to them, they kind of qualify on the back end side. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for them, there's just the harshness that hits them right away. And even though these are the ABV on these is similar to some of the whiskey I've served them, this is still softer. So anyway,
thank you. I love smooth. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right, Kate. Sort of the Kentucky hug is what they're not liking, and there's none of that here. It's just a really nice sort of buttery finish.
Yeah,
but it still lasts.
Yeah, and who doesn't like butter,
Yeah.
right? So
only vegans, and I love my mom, but come on, butter's delicious.
Yeah, butter is delicious. But that's why I got to walk a lot further now than I used to. It's driving me bananas. All right, so we've had the blonde, we've had the 2223, we've had the select. Let's see. Let's go back to Sam's original thing. Oh, we had the single cask. All right. Y'all, I'm gonna go find a bottle of single cask. It's in the other closet. But I want to drink this with you because this is the one. If you liked bourbon, this is gonna be a fun one to talk about because I'm gonna sideswipe you with something. Give me 1 second.
Perfect opportunity for Sam to say something. Say a few words. Welcome. Good to see you.
I'm just making some notes what Chris is saying so we're consistent because every time he has another story. So, and one is more interesting than another one. But I enjoy the questions and I also enjoy the comments. Chris, when you're back, I think we own one answer to Elijah, I believe. He asked about something and we didn't cover it. So Elijah, I promise we'll get back to this.
And don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Let Chris tell the stories.
Hey, I love the stories. The stories sell, right? It's not.
Yeah.
That's what's in the bottle. What's about in the bottle. Nice to see you all, by the way.
You as well. You just came back from traveling, right? Where you and Chris were out of the country?
Went to India, and then we wanted to go to Dubai, and half an hour before we were supposed to board, the war started, so they canceled the flight.
Okay, well, better half an hour before than half an hour after.
For sure, for sure. So we wanted to go to Japan because we had another 4 days to spend. All the tickets for Japan were sold out. So my daughter thought let's go to Singapore. So we went to Singapore, which we all love. If you've never been there, please go there. If you've been there, you'll probably agree with me. It's one of the best destinations in the world.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Literally the cleanest country.
Just got back from Texas, and Palladio, that's your member of your club. He said hi. We met in person.
Great.
Galaxy Whiskey Gala. So I see your members are all over. Jason, I've heard you're coming, so we have a chance to shake your hand and give a hug to each other.
I sure am. Yep.
Thank you.
Flight is booked.
Beautiful, beautiful news. Mr. Uhde, you owe one answer to Elijah, so you want to start with that before you go to your single cask sherry?
I think first I want to address the fact that you say I change the story every time I tell it. You're not supposed to call me out on that. This is on YouTube. They're going to hear that and they're going to start researching. Of course, the story changes every time.
We're gossiping about you. I didn't know that you were watching it.
I still have in the AirPods. My house is small. I can hear you anywhere I go.
Now I am in trouble.
Sorry, that took a minute. My son asked my son to rearrange my cabinet, and he did a great job of it. So the single cask. Okay. So the single cask. So these were all new oak. Some because they're 440-liter barrels, they take on a little bit less color over time, and so they have to get really, really old before they get this super dark color. But it's a fun one to try. But for those of you who like bourbon, this might be more up your alley. But for those of you who like single grain Scotch whiskey, it's going to be even more up your alley, because the side swipe is when you taste this, I want you to think of like old Invergordon or like very old Cameron Bridge, if you're into Scotch whiskeys. But you get more butter, you get more of the oak tannins, and then you get a little bit of cherry note. But then which cask number do you guys have?
Very good question. Let me pull that up 1 second.
While he's looking it up, Chris, didn't we miss sherry?
Sherry comes after single cask.
Oh, single cask and then sherry. Okay.
Yeah.
She's here. Cask number 320.
Okay, so I'm drinking 319. These would they're all sister casks, and they're great. Yeah, hints of bourbon sweetness. There you go.
Are they getting any toasted in the char?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Are they getting any toast in char?
Yeah, it's my understanding. I think it's just an alligator char. It's like a number 3. Yeah, Ariake Sangyo has a charring facility on site. It's kind of cool. They toast them pretty heavy. But the oak integrates really, really well with it. And you get, I mean, you guys tell me what you get. I always get like a little bit of cinnamon. I always get a little bit of oak. I get a little bit of cherry. It's not too crazy. I still can't figure out if Benno's screen is frozen or if that's a screensaver. Sweet cherry coffee. Yeah, there you go, man. Jason, that's basically describing some of my favorite bourbons. So I'll take it. Old oaky Scotch bottles. Tim, that's that Invergordon Cameron Bridge thing. So basically those very, very old grain whiskeys kind of sneaking in. And they would get that same profile on a refill bourbon cask. Just like 40 years in one of those, and it kind of comes around. Yeah, the finish is different. That's right, Jay. You get the marshmallow, and you like, it's just because it's not corn. It's just a little bit different. Again, the expansion of the pie. Do we like it? How do we feel? Jamie hadn't said nothing. You good?
I had a question. How old are these generally?
It depends on the release. The last one is 16.
Oh, all right.
The last one is we're having tonight. They hover around 6 to 12. They usually carry a little bit of 6, quite a bit of 8, and then just a little bit of 12 will be in there as well, depending on what it is. The 12, and the reason for that is it might be some of the older stock. If it's not new oak, it'll carry really, really good qualities to it, but it can't be bottled as a single cask because the single casks historically have always had a higher oak presence on them, and we don't want to trip that up. We only ever did one that was not a first fill oak cask, and that was GRC 14, and that was a refill cask, but it just tasted like lychee fruit. We couldn't. Is again another one of those anomalies. So it got the permission to not be one. But some of the old stock, it gets like that butter note that's the old stock coming through. So when you taste butter, that's usually a refill cask that's got quite a bit of age on it. That's bringing it around. The new oak actually carries a little bit more tartness to it, but you get it in this as well. This one's probably somewhere between 6 to 8. I'm not sure on this cask, to be honest.
I'm comparing this one and this one, and guess what is this here? Cameron Bridge Sherry Cask.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Really, now I see it's a great comparison back to back, really.
Yeah. That was always fun because it was a nice.
See, I didn't think that last time you were talking about it. See, every time the story changes.
Just a little bit. The more I drink it, the more I realize. I think where it came from, Sam, is we were drinking some Emmer Gordons one night, and I snuck this in to mess with someone, and I got away with it. So now I feel confident using it as a tagline.
Makes a huge sense for sure.
Okay, so for the old people, I got the cough drop thing, and my husband looked and goes, Ludens. You got to be really old to know what Ludens cough drops were, and that's what I got, and it was awesome.
That's cool. So remember to take your medicine.
Yeah, this is the third Fukano with you. It's been years, but I've done 3 of these, and I still love it. And this is the only low ABV that I actually like.
Thank you. Thank you all around. Yeah. Are you guys ready to get weird with it? Let's go to the sherry cask. If you have another glass, it's a fun thing. I'm gonna grab another glass. It's a fun thing to do with the blonde because they're just night and day different. The whiskeys were bottled at the same time and they're right about the same age, but they're so different in flavor profile.
Are you sure you didn't bottle soy sauce instead?
That would be the Hakata. Let's see here. So there's a fun story with this bottle that's you guys watch Sam's face as I tell it. So you can see on this bottle, there's a smudge of ink there, right? So Fukano-san was in town and signing bottles, and he 3 different bottles of this, he accidentally smudged the label because the ink was dripping a little bit. So my expense reports were pretty expensive that month, but sorry, Sam. But thank you for the bottle of whiskey. I told myself I'd use it for samples, but really I've just been using it for quality control.
Can't write it off.
Yeah, and the quality control is that I can attest that the beginning of the bottle is as good as the middle of the bottle, and I'll be able to attest that it'll be good at the end too when I get down to the bottom. But the sherry cask, this is again a little bit more perverse. If you like those old school sherry styles that got a little bit of funk to them, this is going to be right in your wheelhouse. It's almost equal parts Manzanilla sherry first fill and Oloroso sherry first fill. Just nose it and sip it. But the Fukano Blonde is actually, I think, older than this. This is, I think, predominantly 7-year-old whiskey. But you get the rich sherry notes and, you get that dark color to it. And it's funny because this whiskey to me showcases the diversity of what Fukano-san's distillate can be.
A lot of baking.
Sorry. Yes, sorry, Elijah, I owed you an answer to a question. Koji and yeast all in the same vat for fermentation, just like sake. And that's your starter, and then you'd add more food to it, more rice, more water, and then it continues to ferment and ferment and ferment for the 21 days.
Sharing out to me hits like my grandma's shoe fly pie.
I don't know what a shoe fly pie is. Educate me.
Raisin pie.
Hmm.
It's like raisin, and you would serve it with custard. So
That's one of my favorite things about sherry cask. It gets those dark, dried fruit notes, right? It's and it's a little viscous and it's chewy and it's kind of sweet. And what's nice about it is, if you were to kind of have an evening, right, you might start with the blondes to just decompress, and then you would maybe have your meal. But at the end of the meal, when your palate's satiated and you're kind of full already, you want something a little bit bigger and heavier that's going to kind of hold up. That's why we eat dessert at the end of the meal, right? You just have it then, because your palate's a little bit overwhelmed, but it's big enough to where it'll still cut through so that you can taste everything about it. For my bourbon guys, how is this treating you? Because this is kind of a little bit out there, right? You doing okay?
Thankfully, I've done a single malt that it's not too crazy, but I do like the deep baking spice notes at the end. It's a nice long finish there.
Yeah, you can just taste this. Like, you'll taste this whiskey for like 20 minutes after you drink it. Anyways, and that's like the first 5. That's the core round. And then who's in the LA area? We haven't done you're going to do this. We're not doing the 16. Oh, perfect. Hold on.
I felt like it was unfair to compare it to
all right, you guys do your vote. I'm not going to vote on this because obviously let Sam vote twice.
You can vote.
Come on, Chris, pick your favorite child.
No. That's why I only have one child. So I'm not tempted to kill more than 2 kids in one day. Who's in the LA area?
Jordan, you live in the Orange County, right? Jordan?
I'm in Culver City, West Side.
So May 3rd, Sam's coming to the LA area, and we're going to have a big thing. Vadim's going to put it out, I think, next week, but this is the sneak peek for the ImpEx collection stuff. So reserve that date, May 3rd.
That's a Sunday, right?
Fuck if I know.
Yep. Yeah, it's a Sunday. It's a Sunday. May 3rd, 2:00 in Burbank.
I'm in trial in Cleveland for the next 5 weeks, but the judge has a doctor's appointment the 1st and the 4th. So I don't fly out to the 4th. So I should be here the 3rd.
Awesome.
This will be one you're going to like. It's ImpEx collection, all single cask gems. And we're hosting it here. So that means I'll have some ImpEx reserves come out as well at the end. So we'll have some fun. But I was also going to tell you is the single cask that you tried, there are other sister casks coming into the city probably later this summer. So like if you're local and like Bavel or Bestia or Safi's, they're like 3 great restaurants in LA. They have their own single cask coming. Vendome and Toluca Lake's got a single cask coming. I'm trying to think of who else. I think that's it for LA. There's one that just went to San Francisco. Do you remember the account? Let me tell you guys the account if anyone makes it up there, because they're doing cocktails with it right now. They just launched them last night. They're fantastic. Per Zakai, who's our trusty force in the north. Bar Iris in the city. It's a Japanese bar. They have their own single cask that they're doing too. So it's fun because you're going to start seeing it pop up. We did this program, this micro barrel program, which was only basically we allowed different accounts to share casks And so they only had to do like 60 bottles, and then they could have their own hand selected version of it. And then like if you go to one of the busiest restaurants in Honolulu called Fett, they have their own cask. They put it under Mill Fett there. They've I think they got a James Beard, and then so it's cool. It's like all the foodie people are really starting to come around and get on board with it. Like Ballard Cut in Seattle bought two casks. They got a blonde and they got a regular one. So it's fun to watch. Like with the Koji whiskey food movement, the Koji whiskey movement seems to be taking off as well. But May 3rd, mark the calendar. Who won, Vadim?
Who do you think won? What do you think was the group's favorite?
I would probably get like Select is the one that usually kind of takes it because it's a lot of people seem to really gravitate to that one.
It's tied between Select and Edition 2223.
Yeah, the new oak makes a difference, right? The blonde is more esoteric, but it's super fun. The sherry cask is a little perverse. The Select and which makes me very proud, right? Because the 2223 and the Select are the ones where those are the ones that we put the most time into to make sure that they're right. To give you guys scope on how the blending process works, it's an entire like first time is spent detoxing to getting like because it starts in Japan, right? So go over there and just eat a bunch of Japanese food, which is always less unfortunately, less butter, less salt, like less heavy flavors, less sugar, and you kind of bleed it out, right? And you reacclimate. And then the blending takes like 3 days. You try it in the morning, you try it at night, you revamp it for the next morning. You want to try it at different parts of the day to make sure it's still good. And then you kind of think of what you have, and then you bring it back to the States and you reacclimate to the States, and then you try it again to make sure it's not messed up. Like it was one of those where there's an ImpEx collection long pond. To decide the proof on it took 2 weeks just because I can't have Sam yelling at me that I fucked it up, right? So I got to get it right. So it was one of those where you really got to think it. And I know that he goes through the same process with the single cask. Like he might try them, and I think the first round of ImpEx collection were tried in Scotland, talked about on the plane, and then tried again in San Francisco twice before they were selected. And it's that's what's cool about being a company our size. We can put that type of time into it. And then if it's no good, we'll blame anyone in the office that's not either one of the two of us, because that's how that works, right? Yeah. You ready for the last one?
I'm just curious the group's feedback on this is I know a lot of people, like industry-wide, people foo-foo because they're like, oh, it's rice whiskey. Was anyone put off by that? Like, this doesn't taste like what you would expect. I mean, it just tastes like whiskey. It's a lighter style of whiskey. It's delicious. There's different flavors. Like, there's nothing bad about it, right? How do we feel?
The blonde reminded me of some of the best sake that I've had at a super high-end sushi restaurant that did a all night, exclusive tasting with, custom tasting with sake. So that reminded me of that. But some of the other stuff, like I said before, reminded me of some of the nice bourbons not bourbons, but some of the nice scotches, but especially that sherry cask and the single barrel, which I like the single barrel better than anything else so far.
Yeah. Do you remember how much those sakis were in that restaurant for that tasting?
Oh, sake can get up there.
They paired it, and it was a little place in over by Dodger Stadium. And there was like 6 seats at the bar. It was a Michelin star sushi chef, and he did a tasting. It was like doing a sushi version of French Laundry, and that was it. It was about as expensive, and some of those sakis were several $100s a bottle at least. And the blonde really and they did a pairing of multiple different types of sake, from like champagne type to whatever. The blonde reminded me of one of the really nicer in the middle of the meal ones that I sent my daughter out to try to find.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's cool.
I don't know how much other rice whiskey I have. I have one other brand out of Louisiana. I won't name them because they're not here, but they're
Yeah.
definitely trying to be bourbon, and it's interesting up front, and then it's kind of disappointing in the back. And to Chris, your point all night, I like that this isn't trying to be something that it's not. It just is what it is, and is presenting itself that way, so that I'm not finding it lacking. I'm enjoying what it's adding, which I
Yeah,
try to present that a number of times. But I do really enjoy that because I'm not forced to compare it. I'm just sort of here to go for it.
yeah.
And I will say, as more of a bourbon guy, whenever we do single malts, usually by the fifth or sixth, my palate's pretty fatigued because it's just like, all right, I'm tired of this, and I'm not at all with this. So complimenting the grain as well, for whatever that's worth.
Thank you. No, it's good because they're meant to be even keel, simply delightful with a nice, good finish to them. And I mean, shit, man. I feel like it's Tuesday, but it's Thursday. It's a Thursday. It's not supposed to be complicated.
Yeah, I usually
I'm too old for that shit.
I usually just go for a nice Nagori. I like the sweetness of it and enjoy that with sushi sipping on it. So I'm kind of enjoying some of the same sort of, I don't want to say flat notes because it's not flat, but kind of smoothness as we've been talking about throughout.
The 16-year-old. Okay. You guys have the 16-year-old, yeah? So this one is it's a fruit bomb. It should have a fruit note to it. And I was desperately looking for my 16-year-old when I went to get the single cask. And of course I couldn't find it. And I thought I'd cellared a backup, but I can't find it either.
This
Which
is
is
where you need to
kind of
be
bumming me
very
out.
careful of how you speak about the whiskey, Chris. Right?
How you reckon?
We know you're talking about a 16-year-old whiskey, but if somebody else walks in and over, poor Vadim.
The 16-year-old whiskey is amazing. That stuff is right up there.
Man, yeah, it's I don't have it, but I have something else. So I'm gonna pour myself something else, which is gonna be almost as good. I think these are I've got an old sample of the 14 year, a very, very old sample of the 14 year, which were also right there in line. But do you guys get the fruit note? If I remember correctly, like the 16 year had a little bit of fruit pop on the back end, and it was just elegance in a glass. And it was one of those where, I mean, you couldn't. The single casts are good, but this was like a different thing, and so it only made sense for it to go into the ImpEx collection. So I don't know.
I think
I
we've
hope you
had
like
a
it.
bad ImpEx collection release so far. So this is a nice primer to the May 3rd event where we're tasting the newest expressions that are coming in. So I don't think you guys have ever bottled a bad expression to our experience. But a few people no, who did we lose? We lost someone. A few people have messaged me. We have our customary toast on the last pour. So I invite everyone to turn on their cameras for just a second and say thank you. Thank you to you for coming and joining us and spending the evening with us. Chris, thank you for sharing your passion for Fukano with us. This has been absolutely an amazing treat. So we're not done yet, but we are going to smile. Jay, pay attention. Smile to the camera. There you go. Got it.
Are there
Jay
any?
is a published reviewer, so he's probably taking notes to publish this somewhere.
Please give me better grades than what I got in school. Shit. The anxiety's real. Were there any other questions about anything? You can see like behind me. Here, let me show you. So these are all. There were two limited edition Fukano artwork done by Lindo down in Orange County, and that's the Women Who Whiskey edition. We collabed with them, and that's the 6,000. That's the original artwork for both, and then that's another thing she did of the distillery. So it's like my office is very small. It doubles as the guest bedroom when people are here, and then I have my Kilhoman Lindo custom 10th anniversary painting as well because yeah, why not, right? I fucking love whiskey.
I bought 3 of Lynn's bottles.
They're great, right?
Yeah, she's amazing. You know where she is now, right? She's working at hand laundry inside of
Oh, in the
in
speakeasy.
Long Beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's I the last one, it encompasses all of them. To me, it's kind of like the culmination, because I get a little bit of every other expression in this.
What's funny is that is not. I think that's a neutral oak cask. It wasn't a sherry cask or anything like that.
But
I don't think it was.
it seems to encompass everything.
So I know exactly what you're saying, and it goes back to that signature, right? Like Fukano Distillery has a signature. It's its own unique thing. And while it's heavily malleable by the different types of casks it's in, it carries that umami and that silkiness underneath. It's what makes it kind of a fun. It just makes it fun. It's just supposed to be fun.
If I had it blind, I would know what it was, but to me, it was kind of like the culmination of everything that was presented.
Thank you.
You're so right, Sandra. I usually let Chris deal with Fukano in terms of selection, because he would really be given the key to the distillery, and he would go there. They trust him so much that he would, select casks with small batches, or call me in the middle of the night. Oh, Sam, this cask needs to be bottled as it is. Like no batch, no marrying with other and all this stuff. But because I'm going to be biased, because the ImpEx collection for Fukano 16 was kind of our child, I had to stick my nose in it. And you're right, it's not exact DNA of Fukano, but it gets everything by a little bit. It's like a full circle of what Fukano could be in terms of quality. So thank you for that.
I'm looking for something to show you guys. Yeah.
I was hoping Elijah would unmute himself. I'm curious how he feels about this, because he's a big sake and other spirits and other sochu and shochu and all that stuff. He loves that stuff. He's very knowledgeable on this. So
I don't know if I'm very knowledgeable, but I did prefer the blonde the best. And I think it's because I like the distillate. I like just the rice. I like that there's not that much oak. I really like the rice distillate coming through. So like for me, that was my favorite. That's my only comment.
This is I'm not muted. So I want to show you guys 2 pictures. One is this one to give you scope of what, like, there's Oi-san. This is Fukano-san. Like and that's my son from many years ago playing through the casks. There's no pretentiousness. There's no massive conglomerate. They're family distilleries, right? Like he's 6 generations. We were pretty fucked up in a fugu place here. He's 7 generations. He used to actually be one of the top gymnasts in Japan. He was like the best in Japan at the double rings. He just couldn't do all the other things, but and he had to get called back to go run the distillery back in the 90s. But he's like, I watched him do push-ups one time, and I was like, what the? He was just like cranking them out. But they're family distilleries. They really are. It really is family. Like when he and I needed to go work in Hawaii, and we just, it was easier to get an Airbnb and just share a place, because hotel rooms are expensive. Like the big companies are cool. They do what they do, but it's a little bit of a different beast, if you will. And then there's one other one that I want to show you guys for the Angelinos. If I can find it, it'd be September, I think. To also give you, that's fucking 2024. Sorry. I took off geographic location on my phone like years ago, which is stupid, and I probably should put it back on, but I don't know how to do it. Maybe my son will get old enough where he can teach me how to run my computer here soon. I can't do it anymore. Well, let's see here. I'll share this. This is him this is everyone at a club in San Diego. These are all distillers, all of them. And then he's from the government. And it's a fun time. And then I want to try to find the other one because it's relevant. Oh, here you go. And of course, we took him to a Dodgers game because that's what you do. So thank you for trying his whiskey. Please buy his whiskey because Dodger tickets are expensive as all get out. It's painful. Sam, the company did not pay for that one, I promise.
And buy
That you're going to find.
because Chris needs to go there 4 times a year to Japan, so we need some.
I don't know. Any other questions?
And 4 times to Hawaii. Sorry for venting.
So, Chris, for those who may not know, since we talked about Fukano, did you want to mention, since you do Oishi too, what they might find if they were to try that being also a rice whiskey?
So Oishi's a little bit different in that his distillate is Fukano's distillate's still got a little bit of grit to it. Oisan's distillate is even more floral, so it's even lighter in profile. But he has a lot more casks, and he has been buying casks from this company since the 1970s consistently. So he's grandfathered into old things. So he actually has an allocation of Mizunara casks. And when 10 75-year-old sherry casks came into Japan, he got 5 of them. Like he's kind of got all that stuff going. So depending on what it is, it's a little bit all over the place as far as the flavor profile of his stuff goes. I don't know, Benno. What would you say? You know it. Benno didn't expect it to get called back out. He asked that question, just bolted.
No, sorry, I'm actually doing something else. That's why I'm not on video. I'll just say real quickly, like, it's interesting. It's kind of like you said, it's similar but different. I don't want to say more refined, but maybe that's a little bit what you might taste if you were to do a parallel tasting. So I didn't realize about the difference in the greater cask selection, though. That's interesting.
Yeah, this dude's nuts. He's got Banyuls cask. He's got it's Madeira, Muscatel, Banyuls, Mizunara, Sakura. I think he's the first one to bottle whiskey in the Sakura cask ever. I've not found a record before his. I said Madeira already, brandy or cognac cask, sherry cask, different ages of sherry cask, right? Like 75-year-old sherry cask and current modern date sherry casks. He's done some new oak. He did a corn distillate and put it in a cask. But that's not ever going to make it here in one of those bottles. That's more for fun and experimentation. I don't know. It's just cool.
We had you on here talk about Oishi in August of last year. I'm curious how many people were on that tasting. There we go. We got a few people. There we go.
So you guys just straight up let me answer a question you already knew the answer to?
Not everyone.
That's just wrong.
Not everyone.
So actually, on that note, Chris, one thing I've never seen yet, I think, on this, and have you ever gotten, do you guys have any samples of any of the new make from Fukano or Oishi or anything that, people could try?
It's funny. I have. And you know what I have here? And we could drink it on the 3rd if y'all come.
Mm-hmm.
But these are 5 different new makes from Oishi from all different types of rice.
Ooh, nice.
So these are single varietal rice new make distillates.
Awesome.
And, so we have Hino Hikari Gohyaku Mangoku. Oh no, there's age fast. He lied to me. It's 4. We have mochi rice and we have Yamada Nishi rice because they were all fermented and distilled individually. So that's kind of cool. Remind me about that, and we'll do like a little side sneaky tasting after the tasting.
Nice.
But it'll be but we can try it.
Very cool.
I didn't
handshake.
when we had the blonde to start, it didn't hit me that this was a different grain, right? This is just whiskey, right?
Yeah.
But then when I picked up the glasses and I sniffed them all, I realized there was a pretty big nose on all of them, and you said, oh yeah, it's probably the rice. Anyway, yeah, I'm sure it is the rice. And now I'm really curious when you say, these various varietals of rice that you have the distillate of. Curious to see how that varies. How about the distillation process, or rather the yeast, the brewing process part of it? How different is that from grain to grain, from varietal to varietal?
The varietal, that would all be the same. So it's all,
Okay.
well, they use 5 different yeasts. He uses Oisan. So now we're talking about Oisan, right? That's what this question is pertaining to. He uses, I think it's 5 different local Kumamoto yeasts is all he uses, and then which one he uses for each one, I can find out and get back to you before the tasting on the 3rd. But my understanding is everything's basically the same. The reason why the rice is just grown different is because it's harvested at different times, and so he just makes it as he gets it.
But one thing that I think we've come across in our tastings is that the yeast that is used can often,
of course, the yeast is
give a real different taste in the end.
Let me ask him. I'll just ask him real quick.
Okay.
That's what's cool about working with families, is you just text the dude. The
And
only
also,
problem is,
like, morning in Japan, so it's not midnight.
yeah, it is over there.
He's awake at least.
Same.
I love the idea of a product that showcases the local, like, everything, grain, local fauna, right? Because that's what we want at this point. Is we don't want the same thing transplanted all over the world. We want whatever you are good at locally.
Yeah, and I feel like Fukano really showcases it here in particular. So that this is exciting.
And the bottles are fun. I like the twist offs.
Well, that's going to pork, right? So, God damn. The only problem with texting people in Japan is autocorrect. Hates me. Like, it's just the worst. Sam, you'll get a kick out of this. I started having to text agave profiles, and it's been a minute, right? So it just will not let me type in Espadine, Karwinski, like nothing. It tries to change it to whatever else I've been up to recently. Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
But you can let us know when we see you. I'm just curious to does this yeast lend like a floral quality in the end, or does this yeast end a funky quality in the end? And maybe it's no, not really. The yeast isn't the thing that's coming through flavor wise. It really truly is the rice, the varietal of rice. So I'm curious.
The koji is real. Like you can that shows up as well. It's hard to describe what it is, but you start to really be able to pick it up in different things that you try. So, but yeah, the rice definitely is part of it. The yeast is part of it. He's read the text. That's what's cool about Line. Everybody uses WhatsApp. WhatsApp's for the Europe. Line is for Japan. I see a few of you smiling because you know this. And let's see what he gets back to. He's going to translate it in a second. Has anyone's favorite changed the more they've drank them since they did the vote? I'm curious about that one.
I literally just did another lap, and I'm sticking by my 22-23 vote.
We didn't include the 16 as part of that vote. Did the 16 blow everything out of the water, or is anybody just saying no? I'm sticking to what I had.
I'm kind of hard pressed. I just typed it in, but it's the 16 to me is like the best of all of the core expressions in one dram.
Yeah.
So all of the things that I liked about each one individually, it's all there in the 16. Yeah. But honestly, it's like they're all so good. I don't know that I would change my vote, but I might consider it.
Well, the vote didn't include the 16.
I know, right? That's why I said I might change my vote, but I would definitely have to think about it real hard.
It's tricky for me because like just one sip, just night, what hits for the one time, I stick with the Select. But what bottle would I buy to have for later to revisit? It's the 16, like hands down. Because to me, those are two different experiences. But
Exactly.
that to me is like a much more interesting, much more I want to sit with it. I want to experience it. I want to experience it at different temperatures, different times, different water levels, but just like what did like you gave me 1 ounce tonight and what hit the best to me tonight, it was the Select, but that's not the one I would buy. Not that I wouldn't buy it, but if I could only buy one, that's not the one I would buy.
Yeah, I wish
And
we had
for
more of
me,
the 16.
I'm thinking I would love to have a bottle on my shelf that the people who are not really whiskey drinkers might taste, might go ahead and have and not be offended by, because they're always offended by the whiskeys. And I'm trying to figure out which of these would be the one for that. But if I were buying just one, I could only select one to drink for myself. I agree. I think it'd be the 16. Yeah.
16 is pretty dope, ain't it? Only problem is there's no more 16. I mean, it's just what Mission Liquor has left, I guess. That's a hard bottle to get. Do you remember how many bottles came out of that cask, Sam?
160. And that was my question. What happened with the rest of it, Mr. Eddy? Did you try
Oh,
to open?
it's strange. Those casks, like some of the Hakata 18-year casks only have 120 bottles in them. They just evaporate out. It's kind of weird. I don't think there's much because again, you guys remember it. If they had historically been sold as whiskey in Japan, these bottles would be like the 16-year would be like $500, right? Or $600. The Hakata 18s would be like $600 or $700. Like they would have priced out to be able to service that addition, those additional markets. So, but because they haven't been, they've also kind of been left to their own devices. They haven't been super micromanaged and checked on or anything. So the 16 is probably leaked, and that's all there was to it. But that's the beauty of it, is the flavor comes from all the different nuances, including the Angels being super greedy on that one. Who knows? Or maybe someone in the warehouse. Who knows?
You keep mentioning this Hakata. Are we gonna taste that at some point? Tell us more.
We can do that at another one. So that's the barley one that we do. That's it's one prefecture in the north. So it's in Fukuoka, Japan, and they use locally grown barley and koji, and it's all sherry cask, and it is very, very wild. That's like that whiskey is the other opposite end. If the blonde is one end of what whiskey can be, Hakata is the very, very other opposite end of what whiskey can be. It's designed to be paired with like wagyu and steak and savory tofu. It's not a regular sipping whiskey at all. You're supposed to drink it in a tulip glass, half ounce at a time with food. It's a completely different beast, but we can totally do it, Vadim.
Awesome. Heard it here first. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Can combine Hakata and Ikiko.
That was gonna make me my next question.
You can have sweet and savory.
I've never heard of Ikiko. What's that one?
That's from Iki Island. So that's a place I was telling you guys about politics. On Iki Island, they do 2/3, they do 1/3 koji rice and 2/3 barley. And the reason why is because the way you used to pay your taxes is they would come and take a piece of the rice you grew. So a percentage of your rice had to be paid tribute, right? Well, in Hitoyoshi, that's the other picture I wanted to show you guys. Let me find it and pull it up. Hold on. It's going to take a second. In Hitoyoshi, I'm going to do this. Maps. They're surrounded by mountains, so they couldn't go there and collect every year. It wasn't feasible. And so they got away with just using rice whenever they wanted. I'll do this. But let me just do Fukano Distillery. But in Iki Island, they were exposed and they got tired of getting taxed. So they just started growing barley and distilling with that. So they couldn't take it because they didn't care about the barley. So historically, it's always been 1/3 rice, 2/3 barley because of that. But let me show you guys this picture real quick. Sorry, you think I'm a psychopath with all the tabs I would have open. Here we go. Here we go. You can see this is Fukano Distillery. You can see this is the Kuma River basin. So this is the river that goes through the valley, and these are all mountains around it. So you couldn't really get there to collect taxes, right? It just wasn't a thing. And this is Yatsushiro. This is where the Shinkansen ends. And so you got to drive this road E3 through 26 tunnels to get there. And that road wasn't built until the 1970s. So there's no before, like after that, you used to have to kind of go around and it was, or before then it was just a little bit nuts. If we go up, here is, I think that's where Hakata is made, and this is Ikiko. So you can see if you're coming in from, Osaka, Nagoya, Tokyo, Kobe, if you're coming in from Honshu, Japan, to stop at Iki Island is not a big deal. To go to Hakata is not a big deal. But if you want to go see these guys, that's a hike, man. That's a long time to get there. And then you got to get there, you got to pick up all that stuff, and then you got to get out. So they were kind of left to their own devices for a long time. This is Oishi Distillery up here. They're in the same little river basin. It's cool. And then you have I'm taking the screen off, and then there's a volcano like right around the corner, and so on and so forth.
I'm excited. Sounds very similar to like the Irish doing malted and unmalted because of taxes. You got to do what you got to do.
Any other questions about Fukano Distillery? No.
No, I think that's great. What should we be on the lookout for? What's coming out of Fukano that we can be excited about?
Those single casks that are coming to LA and going to the restaurants. Those are good, man. If you guys know what, Bavel, Bestia, and Safi's, they're three of the best restaurants in the city. They're busy every night. Like, writer strike, fires, it doesn't matter. They stay busy. And they've been busy for years. And they're going to be cocktailing with it. And we offered these small, like these micro barrels is what we called them, where we took barrels and divided them up. They said, no, we are just going to they just took a big one to run it through, because the chef is a big fan, and he's always been about it. And, we're very honored to be included with that type of talent. Those are going to be good. Those stuff coming into Vendôme's good. I mean, the 16 still at Mission Liquor, and that's I don't know when we'll be able to do that again. It's just not in the cards right now. I don't think there's a cask in the warehouse that fits that profile, unfortunately. And then what's going to be super cool is when he does his Koji Japanese whiskey if it's ready, beginning in 2027. But it's got to be ready. He's patient, and we'll know. Yeah.
It's awesome. We're excited.
Did a cat just walk by you? Is that what that flicker was, or are you AI? Hold 3 fingers in front of your face. You guys know that trick? Have you seen that where it kills the filter? Yeah. Vadim, you hadn't even been here the whole time.
I am AI. You got me. This is all an April Fool's joke.
I don't know. What else you guys got going on? What did y'all do for April Fools? Did anyone play any pranks? No, it's
It
not my
was the
style
first night
either.
of Passover, so I had 4 cups of wine and read a story about the Jews leaving Egypt.
Ah, yes. I sent a group text out to our team in the South, and nobody believed me, because they're like, "You know what the day is, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's Wednesday. What? I don't get." And they're like, "It's April Fool," and I was like, "Ah, man." It's almost like you can't even try to do anything on that day anymore, because no one believes that you can. Anyways.
Hey, Vadim, you want to tell them what you did on April Fools a couple years ago on the virtual?
We'll wrap up the recording and then we can talk about it. Thank you so much. This was absolutely fantastic. We really enjoyed learning about Fukano, and we're looking forward to seeing you both in person on May 3rd. Thank you for opening your home to us. So we're really excited. I hope to see everyone there. I mean, Jason's flying in from sunny or snowy Minnesota, depending on the day. But everyone else, especially the locals, we got to see you there. So we'll see you there May 3rd. And yeah, as we've mentioned before, expect a different ImpEx brand every first Thursday of the month. So mark your calendars now and definitely be there for that. But Chris, thank you so much. Sam, really appreciate you. Thank you everyone for coming tonight, and cheers.
Thank you, Virtual Tasting Society. Cheers.
See you guys. Have a wonderful day.